Welcome to DIgitalsoftecs. In this session, we are going to explain about the ERD model called Entity Relationship Model. And we're going to explain every part of the ERD model. So ERD model is one of the most important concept of database management system. And if you are students of software engineering or any other information technology, you must know about the ERD model. And ERD model is the nucleus of database management system. So let's move on. Today's agenda include what is ERM, components of ERD model, entities and its types, what is attribute and its types, ER diagram symbols, relationship of ER diagram, and how to create ER diagram. So after completing this session, you will be aware about the every part of the ERD model, and you know how to create a simple ERD model, and from that simple you move towards the complex ERD model. So ERD model, entity relationship model, is a logical representation of a data in organization views entire system as a collection of entities related to one another. So it is used to describe the elements of a system and their relationship. Entity relationship model is a model in which the organization and everything that have a database. So in database we have entities. So entities have their relationship. So entity relationship model is a representation of logical data present in organization. So we will study what are entities, what are attributes. So it is just the simple introduction towards the ERD model. Our discovery include it is introduced by Peter Chin in 1976. So this is the definition of ERD model. So components of ER diagram or ERD model. So we have the entities and its types, entity type, entity instance, entity set, and attributes and its types, and we have relationships also. So what is entity? An entity is a person, place, thing, or event for which the data is collected and maintained. For example, if I want to make a system or a database for a library, so a library contains entities book and the members. So I will create a relationship between the books and the members. Members are just the students. So I want to create a relationship. So my entity, my ER diagram include student entity and book entity. So an entity is a person. It may be a person or thing, just like book, or event, just like admission or buying the system. It is also called an event for which the data is collected. For example, students have their attributes such as name, roll number, father name. So these are called attributes. So entities example include person, so teacher, student, doctor, event, admission, buying, place, country or city, and the object include car and chair or pen. So all these may comes towards the entities, and it depend upon the system. If we're building a system for library, so we have student and book entities. So entity is a person, place or thing. Student, everything you see in your life is called entities. For example, chair, door, everything, pen, book, laptop, mobile phone. So these are called entities. Hope you understand the concept of entity. So entity type, a set of entity with the same attribute is called entity type. All the entity types share common characteristics. It's also known as entity class. For example, student entity class is a set of all students. So if I want to create a system for library or university, so I will create a student entity class. So a student entity class include all the data of the students. So it is called the type of entity. So here the type of entity is student. So I will group all the students in student entity, and it called student entity class. So I have entity instance. A member of an entity class is also known as entity instance. For example, student Ali of a student entity type is an entity instance. For example, if I want to create a student entity, so the Ali, so Ali is a student, so Ali is the instance of that student entity, because with the help of Ali I can access the student attributes. So just like the concept of classes and objects, so a student is a class and object is Ali. So a class contains data about the Ali, just like the instance of of entity. So instance of entity is Ali here, and we have entity that is student. So entity type is a set of entities with the same attribute called student, called entity type. So it is a type, and if we have a student, so it called the student entity class. And if we have the entity instance, so entity instance, if you assign the name or just representing a student, Ali, so Ali is an instance of that entity. Hope you understand these things. It may be really complex, but if you study and learn slowly, it will understand with the passage of time. So entity set, so a set of all entities of a particular entity type in a database at a given point in time is called entity set. For example, an entity set student may consist all students in the school, just like entity class. So entity class contains data about the students, and entity set is the set, the people present in the school. So the student present in the school will be grouped towards the student entity, so we call them entity set. So we have the types of entities. So for example, if I want to create a system for a university or school, so student is entity, teacher is an entity, so these are called entities. So we have different types of entities. So what is weak entity? So in entity that can exist if another entity exists is called weak entity. So it means that weak entity depend upon another entity. For example, we have a class and a student entity. So if class entity is destroyed, the corresponding student entity will also destroy. For example, this is called class entity and this is called the student entity. So if the class entity destroyed, the student entity will also destroy. And the weak entity is represented among these double line. So this is called the weak entity. Student is a weak entity. If my class is destroyed, then I'm never called myself as a student, because I have no class and every student have a class. So it is a concept of weak entity. We have a strong entity. So an entity that can exist without depending upon the existence of another entity. So class is a strong entity. This is called strong entity and this is called weak entity. So if the student class destroyed, the class will not destroy, it will remain. This is because if we have a class and we have a students, so if I remove all of the student from the class, so the class will be remain. That is why it is called strong entity. There are a lot of examples of weak and strong entity. For example, the customer and the bank. So customer is a weak entity and bank is a strong entity. A bank destroyed, so there is no customer. So if customer destroyed and customer is removed, so the bank will still exist. So this is called the strong and weak entity concept. So we have the relationship in ERD model. So in ERD model we have entities and we have the relationships, and that is the weak entities and the strong entities we discussed. So we have one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many relationship. So we will see in the later. So degree of relationships. We have one-to-one relationships. So chairman can run one department. So it is called one-to-one relationship and we call them binary relationship. So this is called the degree of relationship. So the degree of relationship. So we have different types of relationships. So in binary relationship, we have the relationship among two entities. For example, one-to-one relationship include chairman can run one department and one department can run by one chairman. So it is called one-to-one relationship. So relationship quite be confusing, but later on we will discuss the concepts of all the relationship, and in the last we explain in example, so you will betterly understand about the relationship. So we have one to many relationship. This type of relationship is used when for each instant of a first entity class there can be many instances in the second entity class. For example, one to many relationship. So this line and this line is the representation of many, and if we have a single line, so it include one. So state has many cities, but city is included or it can be present in one state. Remember that state has many cities, so it is called one to many relationship, and city has been included or been present in one state. So the city relationship will be representing here and the state relationship is representing here. So city has only one state, or city has belonged to only one state, and state has many cities, so it is a representation of the city. The state have many cities and cities it just been belongs to one state, so it is called one to many relationship. Many to many relationship. So many to many relationship include that student study many courses, and courses can be assigned to more than one students. Many means more than one student, so student can study many courses, and course can be assigned to many students, so it called many to many relationship. In ERD model we specify the entities, their attributes, and the relationship among the entities. So here we have the many to many relationship. If you want to try and create an ERD model, you first identify about the entities, their attributes, and the relationship. So it depends upon the situation that what kind of a relationship you required. So we have the ERD symbols. This is called the entity symbol, this is called the attribute symbol, and this is called the relationship symbol. So it contains one to one, many to one, and many to many link. So let's understand. So we have attributes. In ERD model we have entities, attributes, and relationship. So these three things are very important. So let's understand about the attributes. So what is attribute? The characteristics of an entity is called attributes or properties. Name, address, cell, and email of a student are its attributes. So attributes called properties. So a student have properties: name, roll number, father name, address, birthday. So these are called the attributes of students. So in ERD model these things are really very important. We have different types of entities. We have simple attribute. So an attribute that can be subdivided into smaller component. For example, we have a person entity and they have a gender. So gender is a simple attribute that cannot be divided. So a person can be male or female. So we call them, so this called attribute and this called entity. So this entity have this simple attributes, and this is the representation of a simple attribute. So person has a simple attribute called gender. It is really very simple. So we have the composite attributes. A composite attribute can be divided into components. For example, address is an attribute of a person. So address can be divided into state, city, and street. So it is called composite attributes, which can be divided into smaller components. For example, if I forget the student. So if a student have address attribute, so that address can be divided into state, city, and street. So this is called the composite attributes. So MultiValue attributes that contain an attribute that may contain two or more values is called MultiValue attribute. For example, if I have a person, they have skills and skill, so this is double circled. So a person had more than one skills. So it's called multi-value attributes. If we consider this thing, so this composite attribute also called multi-value attributes because it contains more than one values, and it is multi-value attributes. We have a derived attributes, an attribute that can be derived from another attribute. For example, I have a date of birth, and that this age is called derived attribute. So the age of a student can be derived from the date of birth. So it is called the derived attributes. We have cardinality constraints. So as I discussed earlier that student, if I want to create an ERD model, I want to identify about the entity set, the attributes, the relationship, and the cardinality constraint. So the maximum number of relationship is called cardinality. The cardinality constraints specify the number of instances of one entity that can be associated with each instance of another entity, which is a relationship. So how many possible relationship between two entities can be specified with the help of cardinality constraints. So we have a circle. So a circle represents zero number of relationship, alliance means only one, and a cross symbol means many. So it is a cross symbol. We have seen in the previous module that is present in one of the entity example we have given. So it is called 0, it is 1, and it is the cross symbol many. So cardinality constraint. So relationship cardinality, it called mandatory one instance, mandatory many, and optional one, optional many. I repeat for you: mandatory one, mandatory many, optional one, optional many. So when you try to create the ERD model, you will slowly understand these concepts. So in the beginning said it is quite complex, but if you try yourself, you will be able to identify the relationship and the cardinality. So we have the cardinality concept. So for example, if I have a student and a book attribute, if I consider the previous library examples, so it have a student and it have a book. So student can be assigned to 0 book or many books. So one student can get 0 books or many books. I repeating this, the student can borrow 0 book or many book, and one book is assigned to 0 student or only one student. So it is called one to many relationship and many to one relationship. I repeating for you: student is one and the book is many. So one to many, student can borrow 0 book or many book, and book is borrowed by only 0 students or only one students. So it is called one to many relationship. We have many to one relationship. So employee can get one project, only one project, mandatory one, and project can be assigned to 0 employees or many employees. So here we have the employees many and the project is 1. So employee can be assigned to one project, and one project can be assigned to 0 employees or many employees. It looks so difficult, but it is really very easy. Many to many relationship. Here we have student many and we have a course many. So student can get 0 courses or many courses, and course can be assigned to 0 students or many students. So it's all about the story of ERD model. So if we consider this example, we have a customer entity, product entity, shop, vendor, and sales. So customer have attribute phone number. So attribute can be represented with this diagram also. So phone number, customer name, and address are the attribute of a customer, and we have a product. So a product have these attributes, shop have these two, address and name, vendor have staff number and name, and sale have product, dates, sum, total. So if you create an ERD diagram for a system, you should specify all of these entities. So we have just the online shopping ERD model on our screen. So we have a customer. So customer can buy 0 product or many product, and product can be assigned to one customer at a time. So similarly, product can be assigned to 0 shop or many shop, and a shop can have 0 product or many product. So it is called many to many, and this is called one to many relationship. So customer and product have one to many relationship, and product and shop have many to many relationship. So these kinds of, you use more than one forms of relationship. So in among two entities we have one to many relationship, and in these two entities we have many to many relationship. So this is the relationship among these. So if I consider customer and sales, so customer and sales have one to many relationship, and sale and customer have many to one relationship. So one to many relationship we have similarly the shop have one to many relationship, we have a vendor and a sale have one to many relationship. So with the help of relationship we specify the number of relationship, the number of operation can be performed in ERD model. So in ERD model it tell us among the interaction of entities, that how the customer related to the product and how the product related to the customer. So with the help of customer we can combine these entities and make our systems. So this is all about the entity relationship diagram, and you can watch this tutorial many times so you will understand, and you will create a simple ERD model at the beginning stage, and then you will be able to create your own ERD model and move towards the complex. So if you have any kind of query or question related to this session, write your query in the comment section. So as soon as possible we will respond on your query or questions. Thanks for watching, and keep subscribe Digital Softecs for more videos on updates. Thank you.